Om Ayahi Varade Devi Traksare Brahmavadini Gayatri Chandasang Mata Brahmajani Namastute. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrittur Ma Amritangamaya Aviravir Maedhi Rudra Jatte Dakkhinamukam Te Namang Pahi Nityam Te Namang Pahi Nityam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Divine Mother of the Universe, reveal Thyself in our heart and in our midst. We invoke Thy presence amidst us. Thou art the sacred words of the Scriptures. Thou art the embodiment of knowledge and liberation. Thou art the supreme bridge to immortality. Lead us from unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death, disease, and suffering to immortality. Manifest Thyself in us through and through, and protect us with Thy compassionate face. Om peace, peace be unto us, peace be unto all living beings. This morning, our subject is practice of self-control. Self-control means control over the mind and the senses, to make the mind inward. This has been the topic of the Upanishads, of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Patanjali system of yoga. No yoga is ever possible without this. Bhagavad Gita reminds us, those who cannot control, they can never attain yoga. This has been the prime factor in spiritual practice. Prayer, meditation, bathing in sacred waters, fasting, ceremonial practices, they're nothing without this control. The Upanishads tell us that is the highest austerity. Each time a person making an attempt to curb the outgoing tendencies of the mind and bring them back in is equal to millions of austerities and other practices. But the question has some views. Self-control is the key to success in any field of life, and it is an indispensable necessity for self-realization. This is the message of the saints and sages. This is the exhortation of the scriptures and traditions, essence of all disciplines. Shankaracharya in his Viveka Chudamani says, the mental seat is a fire which, fed with the fuel of numerous desires by the five sense organs, which serve as priests, and set ablaze by the sense object which act as the stream of oblations, brings about this phenomenal universe. Obviously, a reference to the Vedic system of worship where fire is set ablaze and things of offering is put as oblations. There is no ignorance outside the mind. The mind alone is avidya, the cause of bondage and transmigration. When that is destroyed, all else is destroyed. When it is manifested, everything else manifested. An unruly mind is our worst enemy, root cause of turmoil and mental darkness. Bringing this under control is the only way to inner peace and tranquility. This is called highest yoga, most vital aspect of yoga practice. All spiritual practices, meditation, japa, pilgrimage lead to control of mind. Sri Krishna in his last message, Uddhava Gita, tells us, quote, charity, performance of one's duty, the observance of one's vows, general and particular, the hearing of the scriptures, meritorious acts, and all other works, all this culminate in the control of the mind. Say, of what use are charity and the rest to one whose mind is not controlled and pacified? What use again, what are the charity and the rest to one whose mind is restless or lapsing into dullness? There is a view upheld by this particular school of thought that says any form of self-control is repressive, inhibitive, and reactive. It creates neurosis, depression, fantasies that make a person experience so-called spiritual emotions and ecstasies. Predominantly, this is a Freudian view. When sex charge is controlled, repressed, all kinds of fantasies come. This view holds the self-control obstructs spontaneity, brings personality disorders, forces a person to lead a false life. Cravings for sense enjoyments are natural and normal. When they're repressed, they go underground, create heightened desire for the objects craved. Heightened desire means that the coveted object appears in the subconscious with more alluring nature. Let us say you are fond of eating 7-layer chocolate cake, for example, I give. But you read Shankaracharya and others, well, it is bad. You read medical rules, you feel it is not good for health. So you discard forcibly. Wait. When you go to sleep, in dream, 7-layer will appear with 14 layers. And that cake is so delicious, much, much more delicious than the actual cake. That is called heightened awareness. Self-control, this school maintains, nurtures pessimism and is a practice of gradual suicide. Self-expression, not self-control, stands for freedom, authenticity, and spontaneity. Now, you must understand when I talk, don't take my talks as my views. My goal is to place all the cards on the table. You can make a mistake that maybe this is Swami's view. In any subject, I can argue for any subject. Give me negative or positive. So therefore, This is a view I am presenting. To the seers of yoga and Vedanta, this so-called self-expression is unhealthy and reckless. It is a philosophy of living that only brings dissipation, degradation, disintegration. And the Shankaracharya says, again, in the Viveka Chudamani, in the forest tract of sense pleasures, there prowls a huge tiger called the mind. Let good people who have a longing for liberation never go there. Advocates of self-expression ask for giving free rein to our thoughts, urges, desires, with no restraint whatsoever, called self-expression. According to them, a human individual is driven by 5 basic urges: self-preservation, self-expression, power, sex gratification, gregariousness, and knowledge of the world around him. 5 basic urges. They are of opinion that the sex urge is the master urge, and all other urges are overt and covert expressions of that urge. This urge is the desire for reproduction and the most natural urge of life. When repressed, it creates an unhealthy mental condition for a person and gives him no rest or peace. The seers of yoga maintain that the human individual has 3 basic urges instead of 5. Immortality, that desire for immortality, unbounded joy, and unrestricted awareness, to know everything. Of these 3, the master urge is unbounded joy. Life must have joy in some form or other for its nourishment. The Upanishads tell us that self-knowledge brings the most intense and pure joy ever imaginable. Sense enjoyment and gratification are most polluted and perverted forms of the pure joy of self-knowledge. In self-knowledge, you are enjoying that joy at the source. But when it comes to the world, it becomes polluted. Like our Hudson River. If you drink our source, pure. But when it comes to New York City, polluted. It looks very nice. They tell us Hudson River fish, even you cannot take 1 serving a week, full of PCB. Sense enjoyments are like nectar at first, but poison in the end. In fulfillment of this urge for unbounded joy, a human individual looks for a new body, new place, new possessions, new thrills of sense enjoyment, and a new environment. But nowhere in the universe or in any form of sense enjoyment does he find the fulfillment. Finally, he realizes that appeasing the mind is not the way to peace and happiness, because sense desires are insatiable, and sense enjoyments deplete the vigor of the mind. He then begins to control his thoughts and desires in search of his true self, which is immortal, all-pervading, and source of all joy. Success in this quest is possible only through the control. Emphasizing this need of control, Bhagavad Gita tells us, he who is able to withstand the force of lust and anger, even before he quits the body, he is a yogi, he is a happy man. Called Vega Dharana, the word has been used. If you have a human body, it does not need as a prophet to tell that you have gross desires. That is why you have a gross body. You have subtle desires, angels. You don't see them because their desires are subtle. Difference between a saintly person and a worldly person means saintly person keeps them under control. You must have desires, but you keep them under control. If you have no desire, you are a rotten banana. You will have another reaction. And if you have too much, it will finish you. These desires are called like fire. If you are too close to it, you will get burnt up. If you are too far from it, you will feel the chill. That's the rule. How to maintain a reasonable distance under control. Suppose in the Hindu image of the Shiva symbol, the perfect example of self-mastery. Shiva has a garland of cobras. People wonder why he could not find any other better thing. A number of cobras like this. These are called sense organs. He mastered them. Instead of now, biting Shiva, they now serve as a garland, trophy. That's the beauty. He wears tiger skin. He does not go to Roger's Feet or Brooks Brothers. Plain. That means less desire. He rides a bull, not Mercedes-Benz or anything. His demands are very simple. He is same-sighted. For him there is no friend, no foe. So you must, as a human being, overcome. Desires are not by themselves bad. So long you can keep them under control, under a threshold, they are enjoyable. If they cross the threshold, you need a doctor. Prozac, Valium, to bring them down. This is a very tricky subject. Most preachers do not want to talk about it because their congregations are all householders. If you talk too much, well, they will vanish. But that is the main theme. People talk of this discipline, that diet, this diet. Shall I sit down to meditate on a tiger skin, or lamb skin, or a goat skin? People ask me. I said, well, you can sit on any skin. But if you sit on a lamb skin, you'll think I am like a lamb. If you sit on a tiger skin, you feel better, that I am like a tiger. These are, shall I sit facing east or west? To me, these are dumb questions, but people like that. Swami Vivekananda said, somebody attained the highest by sitting on the east. That became the rule. It doesn't mean anything to me. So these rules are secondary. Kurma Purana, Swami Vivekananda quotes that in his Raja Yoga with a paraphrase. A mortal human being who practices self-control. Self-control means that one control. Sri Ramakrishna says, Kamini Kanchana, lust and greed. And daily thinks of the great self, all-pervading, also the inmost self of all beings. Know that model as a divine being. He is not mortal, a human being. A human being will never dare do that expecting anything. To Sri Ramakrishna, the main obstacles of yoga are two, as I said. Swami Vivekananda, in his Song of the Sannyasi, writes, truth never comes where lust and fame and greed of gain reside. No man who thinks of a woman as his wife can never perfect be, nor he who owns the list of things, nor he whom anger chains can ever pass through Maya's gates. So give up these, sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. Christ says in his teaching, for there are eunuchs who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men, and there are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. He who is able to receive this, let him receive it. Practice of self-control is the most purifying because it transforms the quality of our mind. By controlling his crude and raw impulses and emotions, a human individual has developed reason. And by controlling reason, he develops intuition, which is the purified form of reason. Self-control is the mark of pure mind. It is the purity of mind that distinguishes a saint from a worldly person. While a worldly person is guided by instincts of self-love, self-preservation, a saint finds this connection with the entire universe and is guided by the spirit of self-sacrifice and good of others. Self-control is asserting our higher self over the lower self. Life is a rebellion against the laws of nature. Submission to them would leave us at the mercy of the whims of our mind. Such submission is natural for an animal, but not for a human being. The seers of yoga speak of sublimation of urges and desires, not their suppression, repression. Sublimation is spiritualizing all our urges by channeling them toward the attainment of self-knowledge, in which all desires and urges find their supreme fulfillment. Self-knowledge is not just cessation of suffering or attainment of peace, but experience of intense bliss. When a person advances towards self-knowledge, he begins to test the bliss of self and finds sense enjoyment increasingly tasteless and insipid. True self-expression is the expression of our higher self, and this calls for both freedom and control. In order to express our true self in every phase of our life, we must recover it first by expressing self-control. A slave of passion cannot express anything. He only follows the dictates of his urges. He does not enjoy sense pleasures, but is addicted to them. Self-expression is always preceded by self-conquest. True self-expression is never a riotous living of license and whimsicality, driven by endless sense desires. Those who uphold the view of so-called expression equate promiscuity with affection. infatuation with love, look upon violence, greed, and questionable morals as natural. Such living is the surest way to doom and destruction. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, those who uphold this view advocate living with the morals of a tomcat. In a lecture in Brooklyn, I believe it is Ethical Society, Swami Vivekananda once gave a talk. And he said, next day there would be self-mastery. Come, we'll have a lot of throwing of bricks, he announced. And next day it was filled with hall of doctors, psychiatrists, average persons. That is, I am telling you, quoting from his biography. Swami Vivekananda held purity for the householder as well as for the monk and laid great stress on that point. The other day, a young Hindu came to see me. He said he has been living in this country for about 2 years and suffering from ill health for some time. In the course of our talk, he said that the theory of chastity must be all wrong because the doctors in this country had advised him against it. They told him that it was against the law of nature. I told him to go back to India where he belonged and then listen to the teachings of his ancestors who had practiced chastity for thousands of years. Then turning a face puckered into an expression of unutterable disgust, he thundered, quote, "You doctors in this country who hold as chastity against the law of nature don't know what you are talking about. You don't know the meaning of the word purity. You are beasts, you are animals, I say, with morals of a tomcat. If that is the best you have to say on this subject." Here he glanced defiantly over the audience, challenging opposition by his very glance. No voice was raised, though there were several physicians present. Now question comes, the two views on self-control. What's this, expression or control? Seers of Yoga Vedanta said, control is the way. Now how to control? There are two views. Two schools of thought have differing views on the subject. Which way to do? Nobody likes self-control. Very unpopular. The yoga methodology of control is based on the philosophy and psychology of Patanjali's way. The yoga way says that all our pain and suffering are due to the loss of contact with our true self, our true identity. Because of this loss, the self becomes entangled in the world of matter and subjected to the laws of material world that is plagued by the pairs of opposites such as pain, pleasure, birth and death. Goal of yoga way is to re-establish the contact. Only this contact can put an end to the maladies of life. And this contact is not possible without self-control. The first aphorism of Patanjali states, quote, yoga is suppression of the thoughts of the mind. Suppression is different from repression. Suppression is positive. It is suppression of the mind's lower urges for the sake of the greater goal, self-realization. In contrast, repression having no greater goal proves to be negative. According to Patanjali, there is no yoga without self-control. And such control must be forcible. That is the point of departure from the Vedanta system. The logic of the yoga says, mind is material. Its conditionings of impurities are mechanical. It is most difficult to know the depth of the impurities. All we know is the mind is restless, and the restlessness is manifesting itself in our body movements, unevenness of breath, changes in the biochemistry, and restlessness of the looks. This restlessness is more than disturbing thought. We think it is just thought. All the causes, that there are different depths. Some are in the thought level, some are in the habit level, some are in the tendency level. Thoughts, when repeated, become ingrained and turn into deep-seated habits and tendencies. They do not go away by themselves. Passage of time and change of environment are of no help. Old age cannot lessen their fury, and distance cannot obliterate them. Popular view, well, he's an old man, he can be trusted. Don't believe that. Old men are more troubled. That time they are more vulnerable too, because the nerves have become weak. Sense organs are weak, desires are there. That's why in old age a kind of form of personality disorder comes. They become critical, unhappy. Apart from the ailments, somehow they become jealous of the younger folks. They become vindictive often. They feel pain, so they want others also to have some little pain. You must excuse me because I am telling you all these things. An old man goes to see a dentist and asks how much to pull 2 wisdom teeth. Dentist says, $100. Man says, too much. Can't you do it for less? Dentist says, I can do it for 50 if I cut out the Novocaine. Man says, that's better, but still too much. Can't we do it any cheaper? Dentist says, I could let my trainee do it for 20, but she has never pulled a tooth before and it would be quite painful. Man says, that's great. Casual my wife next Tuesday. Anyway, this is the old age. Have you seen old people sitting on the porch watching why neighbor's son did not come home early? Nothing. Nobody told him, like a self-proclaimed reformer of the society. Habits and tendencies are to be overcome by cultivating counter habits. For that purpose, we must hasten our steps. Reason for hastening is clear. Patanjali says, you have to hasten. Reason, life is short, full of distractions. Much of it is spent in sleep. And another kind of sleep called daydreaming. Hence, control must be effortful and foreseeable. Yoga system prescribes the eightfold practice. Yama, 5 restraints: non-killing, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, non-receiving of gifts, means favor. When you receive some favor or any form from anybody, you subject yourself to the influence of the other person. That's the rule. Niyama, 5 observances: internal, external purification, Saucha. Internal purification you do bathing. External you do is shower, soap. But you do internal. Many people think internal is okay. Outside, external I do not need. Even though I smell like a skunk. Patanjali says, external also necessary. Then he gives a note, his commentator, Saucha. By maintaining external purification such as bathing and cleaning, a person develops a distaste for coming into contact with another physical body. In my first publication, I put that and I gave to a professional editor. He's a woman. For 30 years, edited in the Sambala publications. So she wrote me back. She's an American. He said, Swami, is that correct? I said, well, this is what Patanjali's commentator says. She was in her 55. After completion of the manuscript, she wrote me back, Swami, you told right. I also feel like that now. It has truth. Mortification, study, worship of God. Internal purification is obtained through having friendship for all, by merciful towards those that are miserable, being happy with those that are happy, and being indifferent to the wicked. Asana, posture that is firm and pleasant. Pranayama, control of the motion of exhalation and inhalation, or control of breath. Pratyahara, drawing of the organs, preventing the organs from taking the forms of external objects. Withdraw the mind. Sense organs are running errand for the mind. When the mind is withdrawn, sense organs follow the mind. The analogy given by the commentator of yoga system, as all the bees follow the queen bee, so all the sense organs follow the mind. They do not go toward the subject or object. Dharana, concentration or holding the mind to some particular object. Patanjali is very precise. If you can hold the mind on a subject or object for 12 seconds, you have 1 unit of concentration. 12 such successive units will make 1 unit of meditation. Means if you can hold the mind on an object for 144 seconds, 12 such successive uninterrupted meditation means 12 multiplied by 144 seconds, whole job is done. Why we take millions of lives? The whole thing supposed to take about 2 hours 45 minutes. Why we hold Sunday services for months and months? But the matter is not that easy. Samadhi, complete absorption. The first 5 are external, last 3 are internal. Yoga system asks seeker to make relentless effort to overcome the mind and have unwavering willpower to reach the goal. He is using both control of breath, posture, diet, plus concentration, meditation on a subject. To few words more, he said there are 2 ways, 2 subjects of concentration. Patanjali does not speak of God, though system is based on Sankhya doctrine. Sankhya does not speak of God. He said nobody has seen God. Those who claim they saw, they cannot describe it. And in order to understand the world, we do not need God. Nature's evolution, Purusha. Purusha is the inmost self of all beings. But Patanjali added, God is the teacher of all teachers. Worship of God is also one of the ways to achieve the goal. So the subject or object of meditation can be 2, Purusha or Prakriti, world of matter. Only 2 things I have. Purusha has no picture, no form, no symbol. If you can reach directly to Purusha, nothing needed. Then, if it is not, pick something from the world of matter. World of matter is manufactured by the mind. Stuff is material, but you give it a name. You can pick up a chair to meditate. What will happen? Chair's outer form in concentration will vanish. You will go to the inner content, thought, vibration. At one point you will come the mind content. Then at one point your mind will meditate on the mind. As a result, mind will dissolve. Purusha will prevail. That's the basic idea in brief. So he says, why this subjective and objective? You have to sit in a posture, breathe in a certain way. What do you call? Relentless effort, force. Its reason is too weak to overcome the perverted mind. Devotion to God is most often passive. True prayer and worship call for strong faith in God, which for many are not endowed with. Educating the mind to give up its old ways is a slow process. Auspicious desires are not always forthcoming. The goal is never attained unless we make all-out war for it. The yoga system reminds us that the ocean of mind is always turbulent. If you want to take a dip in this ocean, you cannot wait for weather to improve and the ocean to become calm. You must plunge right into the ocean by learning how to handle the waves. Yoga system relies mainly on rigorous and willful self-control, as distinguished from persuading the mind to give up its old ways by cultivating dispassion. Patanjali refers to dispassion, vairagam, as a complementary means for controlling the mind. The main focus of the yoga system is the training and exercise of the willpower for the development of reason and discrimination. It seeks to modify our subconscious mind indirectly with the help of the regulation of breath, posture, and diet. Modern psychology explains how our conscious thoughts and actions are heavily influenced by deep-seated desire and urges of our subconscious mind. But the yoga system further shows us how we can modify our subconscious mind by the efforts of our conscious mind. How repeated exercise of the will on the conscious level can influence the subconscious depths and modify them permanently. By controlling the manifested effects of impurities, yoga system seeks to eliminate the source of the impurities and regain contact with the Purusha. Let us say a person has a habit of, have you seen people doing that? It's a very restless person. Have you seen people sitting calm but feet tapping? I always, when I talk, I see the lotus feet of the devotees who is tapping this way, very restless. That's an indicator. Eyes, chop, 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 chop. Look is unsteady. Sitting quiet, but this, like a satellite dish. You know that. So Patanjali says, suppose a person is doing this breathing. I hold the hand. Stop it. Will that, the root cause, will be overcome? He said, yes. Each time I hold the hand and stop this movement, it goes to the subconscious mind, a reverse chemistry. Eventually, that will be overcome. That is the most original contribution of Patanjali system. Sanskars, which are unhelpful, can be overcome by counter sanskar. Psychiatric counseling and others. Everybody knows, an intelligent person knows the cause, but he cannot. The habit from the thought which you entertained out of curiosity, it has been transferred to the nervous system, biochemistry. It cannot be now overcome by thought. System is reacting and acting out of its own subconscious inbuilt habit. One example, I quoted many times, Chaitanya Deva, great prophet, most extremely handsome person, wanted to take sannyas. Went to his guru Iswarapuri. Iswarapuri saw him that, boy, you are in the bloom of your youth. Will you be able to save yourself from the worldly gaze of the worldly women? Will you be able to protect your sannyas? Chaitanya Dev humbly said, sir, please examine me if I will be able to protect. Iswarapuri tested him. Loll out your tongue, spread your tongue. He brought some sugar. He put the sugar on his tongue, kept it for some time. After some time he blew all sugar vanished because tongue was dry. He said, I do not need to test any further. One who has this control, he has control over his sex organs. Now think of that. For the average person, the moment he sees the sugar, saliva will drop. You have to bring a bucket. Huh? Why? If I show you one picture, your certain glandular reactions will come. Another picture, glands will withdraw their secretions. So the anger, jealousy, lust, all these are glandular secretions. So that has been transferred into the psychophysical system. They cannot be rooted out by reasoning and eating holy prasadam, sitting in satsang. Satsang is a modern form of lounging. Lounging, you sit in a chair, hello, this informal, nothing serious. The word has already, like Guru, Pandit, satsang. I have an allergy toward that word satsang here. Satsang is a very serious word. So eating prasadam and doing satsang, you will have zero, nothing. This is Patanjali is telling us. The yoga system tells us that to achieve the goal, the seeker must have full awakening of the mind, which is in deep slumber at the base of the spine. You raise the mind, which is reference to the 6 centers of our consciousness. You must be methodical, not whimsical. 2 friends were talking, Bob and Ted. Bob said, my wife drives like lightning. Ted says, oh, she drives fast? Bob says, no, she hits the trees. Patanjali says, you created the mess, you have to recover. Nobody will come to help you. A big game hunter went on safari with his wife and mother-in-law. One evening, while still deep in the jungle, the missus awake to find her mother gone. Rushing to her husband, she insisted on them both trying to find her mother. The hunter picked up his rifle, took a swing of whiskey, and started to look for her. In a clearing not far from the camp, they came upon a chilling sight. The mother-in-law was backed up against a thick, impenetrable bush, and a large male lion stood facing her. The wife cried, "What are we going to do?" "Nothing," said the husband. "The lion got himself into this mess. Let him find himself." Let him get himself out of this. So this is Patanjali says. A dad and his newly married daughter are on a train. Suddenly a group of bandits jumps on board and demanding, "Give us all your money, bags and jewelry, everything valuable." Everyone gives up all their things and they move on to the next car. The father looks over at his daughter and she is putting on her wedding ring. He asks, "Why did you hide that?" He said, "In my mouth." Dad exclaimed, "I wish your mother were here. we would have still had all our luggage too. So you cannot hide. Yoga system prefers dredging the canal of Sushumna. 6 centers of consciousness, it speaks. First 3, bottom of the spine, in the region of the organ of evacuation and generation, the navel, in the spine, the centers are there. Heart, throat, eyebrows. The names are Muladhara, bottom spine, Sadhisthana, the navel area, and the organ of evacuation, generation, and Manipura. 4th is Anahata, 5th is Vishuddha, 6th, in between the eyebrows, called Agga. Seat of the mind, in the center of the brain. But it went out of curiosity, went down and down, remained locked up. Sri Ramakrishna says, for the average person of the world, mind goes back and forth between the first and third. The whole world of sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, they give only 3 indications: eating, sleeping, and sex gratification. Anything they hear, touch, smell, these are desires are aroused. But when it rises up to the 4th, the same world now gives different symptoms. Unified consciousness, vastness of expansion. When it reaches the throat region, you only can hear about God and nothing else. If anybody talks anything, it becomes intolerable for that person. He leaves that place. When he reaches the eyebrows, he becomes silent. It is called Agga. When mind reaches there, it is no longer under the command of the mind and the old sanskaras. In these 3, there is some pushing and pulling. You make effort up to the 5th. After that, you are pulled. If you want to return, you won't. You won't care to return. As you move toward the higher centers, intense bliss of the Purusha, you begin to test and experience. The whole world drops off. That is the state of Samadhi. Remaining there, you forget hunger and thirst. Eventually remain eternally in that condition. Patanjali says to posture, diet, and relentless meditation and concentration, you convert the physical energy into spiritual energy. You need a strong bulldog tenacity. To dredge this canal of Sushumna. Where from that energy will come? Your physical energy will not do. Physical energy, what you gather through diet, exercise, nutrition, they cannot help you. you must convert that energy into a spiritual energy, which is called ojas. A word has been used. When you convert that energy, ojas remains stored in the brain. It is a source of wisdom, purity, and a great willpower. You grasp a thing in a second. Memory. Physical energy, unless you convert into ojas, it will make its way. You won't be able to keep it. That's why yogis do not gorge too much food unnecessarily. That is converted through spiritual exercises. And that gives you indomitable tenacity. So Patanjali says, manifestation of yoga powers on the way generates confidence in the mind of the seeker and encourages him in his task of attaining the goal. Yoga system is for those in whom reason has not yet established its natural supremacy. The second view is of the Vedanta school. Vedanta school says, self-knowledge guarantees no doubt fulfillment, material, spiritual, psychological. We agree with the yoga system. It is not possible without self-control. Self-control is essentially the control of the libidinal urges for sense gratification. Through self-control, a seeker converts his raw libidinal energy into spiritual energy. Conversely, self-control is impossible, often dangerous, without the desire for self-knowledge. Vedanta advises gradual control instead of forcible and hasty control. It maintains that the impure mind cannot be made pure by postured diet and control of breath. Thoughts and urges cannot be overcome by superficial physical means. It seeks to control the gross, that is body and bodily habits, by controlling the subtle, which is thought. Patanjali says the reverse. By controlling the gross, control the subtle. Vedantic law. By control the subtle, control the gross. It seeks to educate and discipline the intellect in order to overcome the mind and body, instead of disciplining the mind and body for educating the intellect. It relies on the practice of dispassion and believes that the master art in all of us is the need to move forward toward the divine and experience unbounded joy. Intellect being given prominence. A little boy went up to his father and asked, "Dad, where did all of my intelligence come from?" The father replied, "Well, son, you must have gotten it from your mother, because I still have mine." This is but nothing in this world is easy. The bride came upon her engagement. Upon her engagement, went to her mother and said, I have found a man just like Dad. Her mother replied, so what, you want from me? Sympathy? Vedanta seeks to educate and discipline the intellect. It relies mainly on the practice of dispassion. He said, why should a person make spiritual quest? He wants joy. Because he cannot get the pure joy, he is eating from the garbage cans outside. So instead of telling him, don't eat from the garbage can, have him taste somehow the superior joy. Then this will be left behind. Same argument in the Bhagavad Gita. Do not give up this world. This world which you feel bothersome for you, your manufactured mental world. Change your thoughts, attitudes, and your desires. Wait when one day the world will give you up, thinking you cannot be used anymore. The world will be a temptation for you so long the world knows you are one of its customers. When the world will discover this person cannot be used for the worldly pursuits, it will drop up. So don't renounce. Don't run away. The world will run away from you one day. The reverse being said. Spiritual longing, Vedanta system says, cannot be generated by mechanical means. Withdrawal of the mind is not possible unless the mind cooperates with you. Forcible control can rouse the mind untimely, before spiritual longing has matured. Through pranayama, control of breath, diet, posture, you rouse the mind. But what you will do with it? Unless your motivation and urge for going forward toward the goal is intense, it will be deadly to have a highly concentrated mind, but not enough motivation to go toward the goal. It will violently fall back. Vedanta interprets yoga's practices differently. It says silence is not a restraint of speech but dwelling on Brahman. Solitude is interior, not external. The real posture is that in which the mind flows toward God spontaneously. Absorption of the mind in God, knowing it alone abides, it's called true withdrawal. Those who give up this supremely purifying thought of Brahman and God put their minds on sense objects to live in vain. Those who try to control the mind through posture, breath, diet are like those who hope to empty the ocean drop by drop with a blade of grass. The goal of self-knowledge, Vedanta system says, not just release from the world, but the realization of the fact that all beings and things are visible and perceptible are nothing but God. To attain this knowledge, what is needed is remove ignorance, the root cause, not fight against the habits and tendencies and desires, all of which are numerous branches shooting forth from the root. The problem In the everyday life, they have a root in the depth, loss of contact. Other systems, counseling, understanding, diet, they are called palliative. They do not take away the root. Go for the root. What is the preferred way to achieve self-control then? The arguments in support of forcible control of yoga and those of gradual control of Vedanta are equally strong. Two ways are equally time-honored and proven. However, the spiritual seekers are not of the same caliber and temperament. The way that is beneficial may not be beneficial for another. The fitness to pursue the one or the other depends upon the competence of the individual seeker and the prescription of the guide. Thank you. Om Jananing Saradang Deving Ramakrishna Jagatguru Padapadmetayo Sritva Pranavami Muhur Muhur. We bow down to Mother Sarada and the great Master Sri Ramakrishna. We take refuge at their feet and bow down to them over and over again. Om, peace, peace be unto us and to all living beings. Thank you.